The humidity hit Lars like a wall as he stepped off the plane. It was a stark contrast to the cool, dry air he had left behind in Sweden. The air felt thick and heavy, almost as if he could slice through it with a knife. He took a deep breath, trying to acclimate to this new environment. Cebu. It smelled of diesel, salt and something sweet he couldn't place. The scent was a heady mix that seemed to encapsulate the essence of the city. As he walked through the streets, he noticed the vibrant colors of the buildings and the lively atmosphere that surrounded him. The city was alive, pulsating with energy. Gone were the crisp, cool evenings of Stockholm. The serene, orderly streets of his hometown seemed like a distant memory. Here everything was different. The air was warm, almost stifling, and the noise was constant. It was a sensory overload, but in a way that made him feel more alive than ever. Here, the air itself felt alive, buzzing with a chaotic energy that both excited and intimidated him. The streets were crowded with people, each one moving with a purpose. The traffic was a cacophony of honking horns and revving engines. It was a far cry from the quiet, orderly traffic of Stockholm, but it was exhilarating in its own way. He adjusted his backpack, a wave of nervous anticipation washing over him. This was a new adventure. A chance to experience something completely different. He felt a mix of excitement and apprehension, wondering what the days ahead would bring. But he was ready for it, eager to dive into this new world. This was it. His Filipino adventure was about to begin. He had read about the Philippines, seen pictures, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of it. The city was a whirlwind of sights, sounds and smells, each one more intense than the last. He felt a thrill of excitement as he looked around, knowing that this was just the beginning. The taxi ride to his hostel was an experience in itself. The driver weaved through the traffic with a skill that seemed almost supernatural. Lars watched in awe as they narrowly avoided collisions, the driver chatting casually as if this was the most normal thing in the world. It was a wild ride, but it gave him a glimpse into the rhythm of the city. Jeepneys, those wildly painted buses, ruled the road. Each one was a riot of color and decoration, a moving piece of art. They were packed with people, some hanging off the sides, others sitting on the roof. It was a chaotic yet strangely beautiful sight. Lars couldn't help but smile at the sheer audacity of it all. Street vendors weaved through the traffic, hawking everything from cigarettes to sunglasses. They moved with a practiced ease, slipping between cars and buses with an agility that was impressive to watch. Lars marveled at their resourcefulness, their ability to make a living in such a bustling, chaotic environment. The city was a symphony of noise horns blaring, music pouring from storefronts, the constant chatter of people. It was a sensory overload, but in a way that made him feel more alive than ever. The sounds blended together into a cacophony that was both overwhelming and exhilarating. It was a far cry from the quiet, orderly streets of Stockholm, but it was a welcome change. Lars, accustomed to the quiet orderliness of Sweden, found himself strangely energized by it all. The chaos, the noise, the sheer vibrancy of the city was infectious. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a sense of excitement that he hadn't felt in a long time. This was a new adventure, a chance to experience something completely different. He reached his hostel, a colorful building tucked away on a side street. It was a welcome sight after the chaos of the city. The building was vibrant, with murals painted on the walls and plants hanging from the balconies. It felt like a little oasis in the midst of the bustling city. It was a world away from the sterile, minimalist hostels he was used to back home. The room was small but cozy, with colorful decorations and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. It felt like a home away from home, a place where he could relax and unwind after a day of exploring the city. Here the walls were adorned with murals, the air thick with the aroma of strong coffee and something spicy cooking. It was a sensory delight, a feast for the senses. The hostel was alive with the sounds of laughter and conversation, a vibrant, welcoming place that made him feel instantly at home. As Lars checked in, a group of young travelers, Australians by their accents, greeted him with easy smiles. They were friendly and welcoming, making him feel instantly at ease. It was a stark contrast to the reserved, sometimes aloof demeanor of people back home. Here everyone seemed open and friendly, eager to make new friends. "Welcome to the Philippines, mate," one of them said, extending a hand. Lars shook it, feeling a grin spread across his face. It was a simple gesture, but it made him feel welcome, a part of this new community. He knew he was in for something special, an adventure that would change him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Lars, feeling a grin spread across his face, knew he was in for something special. This was just the beginning of his Filipino adventure, a journey that would take him to new places, introduce him to new people, and give him experiences that he would remember for the rest of his life. He couldn't wait to see what the days ahead would bring. The first bite of adobo, chicken braised in soy sauce, vinegar and garlic, sent a jolt of flavor through Lars. It was a moment of pure culinary revelation, a symphony of tastes that danced on his tongue and awakened his senses. The rich, savory sauce clung to the tender chicken, each bite more satisfying than the last. It was rich, savory, and unlike anything he'd ever tasted. The flavors were bold and unapologetic, a stark contrast to the more subdued dishes he was accustomed to back home. He was sitting in a small family-run eatery, the air thick with the scent of garlic and spices. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, a haven of comfort and community. The walls were adorned with colorful decorations, and the hum of conversation filled the room. Across from him, a group of Filipinos were digging into steaming plates of food, their laughter echoing through the room. Their joy was infectious, and Lars couldn't help but smile as he watched them. "More rice, sir?" A woman, her face creased with a kind smile, gestured to his empty bowl. Her hospitality was genuine, a reflection of the Filipino spirit of generosity and warmth. Lars, surprised, realized he'd already polished off 2 servings. He hadn't even noticed how quickly he'd eaten, so engrossed was he in the flavors and the experience. "Yes, please," he mumbled, his mouth full of the delicious adobo. He couldn't get enough of it, each bite a new discovery. He was used to potatoes and bread as staples, but here rice was king. It was a revelation to him, the way rice could complement and enhance the flavors of each dish. It accompanied every meal, a blank canvas for the explosion of flavors that was Filipino cuisine. The versatility of rice amazed him, its ability to absorb and balance the bold flavors of the dishes it was paired with. Over the next few days, Lars's taste buds embarked on a wild ride. He explored the vibrant world of Filipino street food, each vendor offering a unique and tantalizing experience. He sampled sinigang, a sour and savory tamarind-based soup, the tanginess, a welcome surprise. The broth was a perfect balance of sour and savory, a comforting yet invigorating dish. He devoured Lars-Ann, crispy skinned roasted pig, the meat so tender it melted in his mouth. The crackling skin was a delight, each bite a satisfying crunch followed by the succulent meat. He even tried balut, the infamous fertilized duck egg. It was a test of his culinary bravery, a rite of passage for any adventurous eater. The experience, he decided, was more about pushing his comfort zone than savoring the taste. It was a moment of growth, a step towards understanding a culture through its food. Each meal was a revelation, a delicious adventure that challenged his palate and expanded his culinary horizons. He found joy in the diversity of flavors, each dish a new story waiting to be told. He began to understand the central role food played in Filipino culture, a symbol of celebration, family, and life itself. It was more than just sustenance. It was a way to connect, to share, and to celebrate. It wasn't just sustenance. It was a way of life. The markets were alive with the sounds and smells of cooking, a testament to the communal spirit of Filipino cuisine. Lars felt a deep appreciation for the culture and the people who had welcomed him so warmly into their world. The jeepney rattled down the dusty road, its metal frame creaking with every bump and turn. The vehicle was a kaleidoscope of colors adorned with vibrant paintings and religious symbols, a moving piece of art that was quintessentially Filipino. The scenery outside was a blur of vibrant green rice paddies and towering palm trees, a lush landscape that seemed to stretch endlessly. The fields were dotted with farmers in wide-brimmed hats, working diligently under the tropical sun. Lars, jostled about amongst a dozen other passengers, couldn't help but grin. The jeepney was packed to the brim, with people sitting shoulder to shoulder, some even hanging off the back. Despite the cramped quarters, there was a sense of camaraderie, a shared experience that made the journey feel like a communal adventure. He was on his way to Banaue, home to the famed rice terraces, and the journey itself was an adventure. The terraces, carved into the mountainside by the Ifugao people over 2,000 years ago, were a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Lars had seen pictures, but he knew that no photograph could capture the true majesty of the terraces. He'd quickly learned that punctuality, a cornerstone of Swedish life, was a fluid concept in the Philippines. Time seemed to flow differently here, unbound by the rigid schedules and deadlines that dictated his life back home. Buses ran on Filipino time, which meant they arrived when they arrived. There was no point in getting frustrated or impatient. The buses would come when they were ready, and not a moment sooner. People strolled leisurely, seemingly unfazed by the heat or the passing of time. They moved with a grace and ease that Lars found both perplexing and enviable. It was as if they had all the time in the world, and perhaps they did. It was a stark contrast to the fast-paced, schedule-driven life he was used to. In Sweden, every minute was accounted for, every task meticulously planned. Here, life was more spontaneous, more fluid. At first, Lars found himself getting impatient, his internal clock ticking away. He would check his watch repeatedly, anxious about the time, worried about delays. But the more he tried to control the situation, the more he realized how futile it was. But slowly, something shifted within him. He began to let go of his need for control, to embrace the uncertainty and unpredictability of island life. He started to see the beauty in the chaos, the charm in the unplanned moments. He began to embrace the slower pace, the relaxed attitude towards time. He found joy in the little things, like the sound of the wind rustling through the palm trees or the sight of a butterfly flitting from flower to flower. He learned to savor the moment, to appreciate the simple beauty of a sunset over the rice paddies. The sky would transform into a canvas of oranges, pinks, and purples, a breathtaking display that marked the end of another day. Or the sound of children's laughter echoing through the streets. Their joy was infectious, a reminder of the pure, unadulterated happiness that could be found in the simplest of pleasures. He realized that life in the Philippines wasn't about rushing from one task to the next. It was about living in the moment, about being present and fully engaged with the world around him. It was about savoring the journey, about connecting with people and appreciating the simple joys that each day brought. He found himself forming deeper connections with those around him, sharing stories and laughter, building bonds that transcended language and culture. It was a lesson in living, and Lars, caught up in the rhythm of island time, found himself more relaxed and present than he'd been in years. He realized that the true beauty of the Philippines lay not just in its landscapes, but in its way of life, a way of life that he had come to cherish and embrace. The air was thick with the smell of salt and seaweed as Lars sat on the beach, watching the sun sink below the horizon. He was in El Nido, a paradise of limestone cliffs, turquoise waters, and white sand beaches. Beside him, a group of Filipino children were playing a game of volleyball, their laughter echoing across the sand. Lars had spent the day island hopping, exploring hidden lagoons and snorkeling in crystal-clear waters teeming with colorful fish. The natural beauty of the Philippines had taken his breath away, but it was the simple moments, the unscripted interactions with the locals, that had truly touched his heart. He'd seen families gathered around karaoke machines, their voices blending in joyous harmony. He'd witnessed strangers sharing food and laughter on crowded jeepneys. He'd been welcomed into homes with open arms, offered meals cooked with love and shared with genuine warmth. It was a stark contrast to the individualism and reserved nature of his own culture. Here, community was everything. People looked out for each other. They found joy in the simplest of things, a shared meal, a song, the laughter of children. It was a refreshing change, and Lars found himself drawn to this sense of community, this ability to find happiness in everyday moments.